The regular council meeting Monday, September 16th for the town of St. Paul. At this time, let's have a roll call.
Mr. Simmons.
Here.
Mr. Trevino.
Here.
Mr. Graham.
Here.
Mr. Swanner.
Here.
Mr. Nail.
Here.
Mr. Jordan's absent.
That's correct. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So at this time we have a couple of announcements. The Collin County Appraisal Review Board is accepting applications for new members until September 30th. If anybody would like to apply, we can help you get that application into the county. And 3-2 regularly scheduled council meetings for October 14th and November 11th. Was the 14th?
October 14th is Columbus Day, but we're going to have the council meeting on that evening. And then on November 11th is Veterans Day. We're going to move the meeting to November 12th.
Okay, so we'll get that. It'll be on the website. If anybody gets confused around the holidays, we'll be able to do that. So
we are going to have it on Monday?
The 14th, October the 14th. Because on October 15th, Collin County is going to be moving election equipment into the council chambers. And starting after the 15th, the likelihood of holding a meeting here is going to be pretty slim until after November 5th. If we do have any meetings in the future that are special call during that time, we'll probably hold them in the conference room.
So at this time, we're open to public comments. I have one, William, you turned in your sheet to be able to speak.
Yes, sir.
And so, please do.
Hi, I'm William Britton, 2304 Silver Maple Drive. I'm here to support Gus Martinez's request for the variance. I believe it's 7 inches higher than what's allowed by code. I don't think I can pick out 7 inches from driving around or anything. And I love the work he's doing. I think it's going to add value to our community. I do want to talk about the code enforcement letters. I got dinged. I was out of code. It turned out had pods, and I thought I didn't want to get a permit for. I was doing work under some other permits. No big deal. That's on me. Had 2, so I found a plan of 1. I'm okay with that. The letter I received was dated June 30th. I received it July 18th. It said I had 10 days to get it corrected, which the day I received it would have put me at the $500 a day fine of $4,000 to owe to the town. So maybe we can get them out, sent out earlier to the people, so we're not out of compliance before we receive them. And also possibly maybe check and see if there's a permit or something and send an email if there's already, like, I've got a permit for air conditioning in my shop. If there's, hey, here, by the way, this is out of compliance, so we can get it, because not everybody gets the mail all the time timely. So maybe sometimes, that's all.
Okay. I appreciate that. Anybody else? I don't have any more forms. Anybody else have anything they want to say at the public comment section? Okay. At this point, we'll close that out. The consent agenda. We have 4 items on the consent agenda. The approval for the minutes of August 29. We have a resolution 2409-16A accepting the 2024 appraisal roll as certified by Collin County Appraisal Review Board, and the 24 anticipated collection rate provided by Collin County Tax Assessor, Collector, and establishing an effective date. Texas Municipal League Intergovernmental Risk Pool Cyber Liability and Data Breach Response Interlocal Agreement was cleared and signed. And then we have amendments to the town's interlocal agreement with Collin County Jail Services. So do I have a discussion on any of the consent agenda items?
Promotion.
If we don't, we can, we'll make a motion to accept the items on the consent agenda.
there's no questions, I'll motion.
No.
I'd like to motion we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this motion passes.
I abstain.
How about here? You got that, Scott?
Yes.
Okay. So, the regular agenda items for tonight, 6-1, conduct a public hearing and consider an ordinance 272-24-09-16, adopting the fiscal year budget beginning October 1, 2024, and ending September 30th, 2025, and providing for budgetary appropriations for the various operations of the town, and authorizing the mayor to make adjustments and providing for an effective date and take a record vote. Staff presentation.
I'm just going to make a very high-level presentation. We've been covering the budget now for the past 2 months. The proposed budget before you this evening is $945,963, which is roughly $88,000 more than the current fiscal year. This increase in the budget is primarily being covered by interest earned on investments, and the budget will be supported by no new revenue tax rate of 0.224604. Mayor, if you can click to the next slide, please. The next one.
Next one after that?
Yeah. So I'm just going to highlight the 3 primary revenues for this upcoming budget year, which account for 91% of the revenues for the total year of 24-25. Property tax accounts for 47% of the overall revenue at $441,190. Sales tax accounts for 33% at $310,000. Interest earned on investments 11% for $103,614, for a total of $857,000. On the next slide, I'll cover the 3 main primary expenditures that account for 80% of the budget for fiscal year 24-25. Roads and maintenance accounts for 35% of the budget, $330,166. Payroll expenses, 23% of the budget, $218,341. And then Wiley Fire and Ambulance Service, 22% of the budget, $213,485, for a total of $761,992, which represents 80% of the budget for next year. That's all I'm going to cover on the budget for this evening. Mayor, if you want to open up, ask for a motion to open the public hearing.
Do I have a motion for opening the public hearing?
I would like to motion to open the public hearing.
Okay,
I'll second the motion.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is open. So,
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on?
so I have a comment I can make from up here for you guys. So I talked with Scott back long before, so what we've done is kept it the no new tax revenue rate for this year. So even though your appraisals go up, the rate comes down, it should be even wash in a way this year. You'll see a $1,900 overage or tax increase. It's very hard when you have $179 million worth of property to get those numbers exact. So there's about, what, $1,908?
So we're adopting, well, what's proposed is adopting a no new revenue tax rate.
Correct.
Which is basically, we're not going to collect any more revenue last year than what we had collected on the tax roll in the tax year 2023. But that does not include new improvements.
Correct.
So when you see ratifying the increase in revenue, what you're ratifying is the increase of revenue for new improvements, which is only $1,900, $1,900.
So if that makes sense, I'm just trying to explain it to the public a little bit so that they understand that the tax rate, we're adopting the no new tax revenue rate overall. And so,
And the only other thing to point out is that your mileage may vary, because from person to person, you might pay more or less this year.
Depending upon your overall assessed value.
That's
correct.
So if your assessed value went down, you
But on
can
average-
anticipate your tax bill, at least for the city, the town, to be less.
But on average, it should be a wash.
It should be a wash.
Well, it is a wash.
Right.
You know,
From the city
most
side.
part. From the city's point of view, we're not taking any more revenue on the same property that existed in the last fiscal year.
Tax year 2023, correct.
So do I have a motion for adopting?
No, close the hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing at this time?
I'll motion we close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Council deliberates adopting the budget, considers action for a record vote.
Yeah, I think we put good effort into this, and, you know, it made sense, the direction that we headed. I was concerned about the inability for for towns in general, not necessarily small towns, but for towns to increase taxes after the changes that the state legislature has made in the last few years to make that very difficult. And when you have times of high inflation, thank goodness we have the amount of money we have in the bank, because we were able to subsidize it, basically using that income. And if we hadn't had that 100K, we would be in a much harder situation right now. The 100K coming from that tax pool savings. So that is something to keep in mind. However, you know, we do also need to make sure we're using that money for the best use of the citizens. But the point is that when you have high inflation, the constraints that the state legislature has put on towns makes it hard for them to overcome that, and some other towns may not be as in great a shape as we are, especially when you have services that are going up, such as ambulance and fire and things like that. Certainly we're seeing those increases, I think 20-something, 10%, 10 to 15%.
For EMS went up.
15?
Oh,
Overall, our costs for fire and rescue and ambulance were about 32% more than
Okay,
they were
wow,
last
okay.
year.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize it was that high.
yeah. It's from the EMS side mostly,
Okay.
as far as that goes. So,
Well, the fire and rescue, it increased substantially too. So you received a notice October of 2023 about the fire and rescue rates going up. They went up in January 23, a little bit over $2,300. And so that's accounting for a significant increase. Even though ambulance service went up as well, that is where a lot of the increase came from, was on the fire and EMS side.
So basically, we're kind of blessed to be able to have this coming out the way it did.
Yes.
So for us to be able to do it, we're not in that big of a pinch,
Right.
even keeping the tax rate where it is, which we didn't have much wiggle room to move anyway.
Well, what we have in the budget too is a very, I wouldn't say conservative, I took the high end in the budget. I used 80 calls when I was doing the calculation of a little bit over $2,300. So if anything, we may come under, unless something starts happening through the year, we just have a significant amount of calls, which could change the budget. But 80 calls is more than likely, you'll be less than that.
and I think the EMS side is going to decrease as TxDOT finishes sections of Parker Road. Most of our wrecks are right here. So once they make around that corner, I think we're going to see a decrease in that expenditure as well. So that should help in the long run.
Yeah, and that's one of them. Your roads are also going to be more expensive as we go forward, you know, the
Right.
cost of materials, but also labor to fix roads and change roads. So it's just, what I'm pointing out is that as much as I appreciate some of the folks in the state legislature, I think they've really handcuffed towns to be able to adjust for these types of situations where you have high inflation. But we're lucky. It's worked out good at the gym.
Now, do we actually have a breakdown from fire and EMS or rescue and EMS from Wiley, what the responding calls are, or a
Yes, we
demographic?
do.
To include demographics?
Yes. I receive a report from them, or at least the county has been receiving reports. So when we receive the quarterly invoice, there's a breakdown of each call and the address, so we can follow back up on that. So just keep in mind, every time the ambulance is called out, your fire and rescue is going as well. There's going to be an engine going along with them. So you're paying for your ambulance, but you're also paying for that fire and EMS service to go along with the ambulance.
Right. I'm just trying to, prepare for 25, 26.
Yeah.
So as our demographic gets older, it's something that we need to take into consideration.
Correct.
So,
Is it typical that the towns get charged even though the accident happens on like a state highway? Like, is that pretty typical?
I've never entered into an interlocal agreement with a neighboring community. If anything, we had our own private ambulance service. But yeah, if it's within your town limits, yes.
Okay.
We will be looking at some options though this upcoming year, as far as how we provide fire and EMS service in the future. Also, the possibility of additional revenue sources that may be able to cover it. So, we know the rates aren't gonna get any lower, so we need to start looking at some alternatives.
Anyone else?
We'll just say,
Say that for a motion.
So-
We would have a motion, we have to do the record vote.
Okay.
Right, he's still reading. Besides that 1,900, is there any other changes?
No.
1908.
Well, if you're talking about the change to the budget, there was just the one change from the proposed budget regarding, what was that expenditure? Team health insurance coverage.
The increase.
I had
in
to adjust
cyber-
that,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
correct, in the core plus.
Yes.
We're on 6-1, right?
Yeah,
we're on 6-1.
So there is a motion in the packet.
yes.
Supposed to be, okay.
Yeah, it's waiting for it from here.
So do we have a motion to adopt the ordinance 272-2409-16?
Yeah, I move that we approve ordinance 272-24-09-16, adopting the fiscal year budget beginning October 1st, 2024, and ending September 30th, 2025.
Second that motion?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Agenda item 6.2, consider approving resolution number 24-09-16B, ratifying by vote the property tax revenue increase reflected in the fiscal year 24-25 budget mandated by Texas Local Government Code, Section 102.007, and take a record vote. Staff wants to give a presentation, please.
Just real quick, if you look at the slide that's on your monitor there, the town does intend to adopt the no new revenue rate of 0.224604. This only applies to properties that were on the tax roll in 2023. So any new property, as I had mentioned previously, would be considered new revenue. So what you're actually ratifying is the new revenue that's going into the budget this year, which is the $1,908. You don't have a tax rate increase, but you do have new revenue coming into the budget this year because you have new property that's on the 2024 tax roll versus it wasn't on the 2023 tax roll.
Yeah, this is worded better than I've seen in the past, so I appreciate that, to help explain that. Point of order, did we need to take a recorded vote for 6.1?
Yes, we did.
We did take a vote on 6-1.
Well, we have to go individually, but everyone pretty much was a yay.
If you need us to do that, if you want
We
to,
can.
Mayor, do you want us to?
Roll call down
Roll call on 6.1?
for 6-1?
Yeah, just to make sure.
Okay, you want to make the motion again? We'll do it.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure. We'll go back to that so I can read it properly. So, let's see, where was it? The motion was to move to approve the ordinance 27-24-09-16, adopting the fiscal year budget beginning October 1st of 2024 and ending September 30th, 2025.
And I second that motion.
That's correct.
Robert Simmons,
Yay.
JT Trevino,
Yay.
Justin Graham,
Yay.
Ken Swanner,
Yay.
Larry Nell.
Yay. Thanks.
So we also need to make a motion to record the vote for ratifying
Correct.
the resolution 24-09-16-B. Do I have a motion to accept the ratify?
I'll make the motion. Move to approve resolution number 24-09-16 Bravo, which ratifies property tax revenue increases reflected in the town's budget for the 2024 tax year.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Simmons.
Yay.
Mr. Trevino.
Yay.
Mr. Graham.
Yay.
Mr. Swanner.
Yay.
Mr. Nell.
Yay.
6-3, conduct a public hearing and consider ordinance number 273-24-09-16 levying taxes for the use and support of the town of St. Paul municipal government for the fiscal year 24-25 and providing for apportioning the levy for specific purposes and providing an effective date, and take a regular vote.
Let's hold, okay. I'm going to do just a real quick presentation. Go to the next slide, Mayor. So levying taxes for 2024, I have a comparison chart between fiscal year 2023, 2024 to 2024, 25. Description, last year's taxable value was roughly $176 million. We had a tax rate of 0.25, so our total tax levy was $442,282. This upcoming tax year, our total taxable value will be $197,765,706, with a proposed tax rate of 0.224604. This year's tax levy is estimated to be at $444,190, and you subtract that from the budget from fiscal year, you're at $1,908 of additional revenue, which is related to the new property that's on the tax roll this year. And then you'll have a motion to open public hearing.
That's correct. So,
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
all in favor?
Who seconded that?
Larry. Do we have any comments from the public hearing, from the public? Everything's clear as mud? Big numbers?
I will say that whenever I started on the council, which is a while back, the entire budget was less than what we're taking in, and the property taxes was about 90% of how we funded everything. So it is a good move a few years back when we adjusted the sales tax, and the citizens voted on that to move it up to 8.25, like other towns around us, so that we could, because we were only getting, like, I think, half or something. We weren't getting very much at all. So now we get a decent amount from sales tax, including online sales, and I think that's really helped with offset the cost of operating the town. So appreciate that. That move that we made, it was quite helpful for where we're at now. And so, yeah, it's just interesting move that made something.
Yeah, and as long as the interest rates hold up too,
Yeah.
we're making enough off of interest from the taxable accounts, helps offset for some of the repairs, maintenance items we have. Roads are gonna be a little sluggish, I think, this year just because of Tech dot. And so as we move forward, we're gonna need that additional revenue at some point to be able to catch back up as far as that goes. So, anyone like to speak? Live wire crowd. Motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. So, we need to take a record vote for adopting the ordinance number 273-24-09-16 levying taxes for the use and support of the town of St. Paul municipal government for the fiscal year 24-25 and providing for apportioning the levy a specific purpose and providing an effective date.
All right, I'll make a motion. I move to approve the ordinance number 273-24-09-16, setting the tax rate of 0.224604 per $100 for fiscal year 2024-2025. This year's proposed tax rate does not exceed the known new revenue tax rate. I motion to adopt an ordinance resolution order setting the tax rate does not require the language about tax increase as stated in section 26.05 Bravo of the property tax code.
I'll second that.
We'll do a record vote. Mr. Simmons?
Yay.
Mr. Trevino?
Yay.
Mr. Graham?
Yay.
Mr. Swanner?
Yay.
Mr. Nell?
So 6-4, consider approving an ordinance number 274-24-09-16, amending the 23-24 fiscal year budget. Scott,
Yeah, I think I got a slide in there real quick to cover some of this as well.
there?
Go back one.
Back one.
Okay, and these are just real brief. So budget remains balanced as originally adopted back in September. You're at a total of $857,678. Go to the next one, I'll just cover the top three, or the top two changes that were made in revenue. Property taxes, I increased from $438,578 to $449,675, roughly $11,000 increase. By the end of July, we were over budget, and what I'm estimating by year end will be right around $449,000. So I increased property taxes by a little bit, by $11,000. And the reason for that is if you go down to sales tax, we're not collecting sales tax like we have in the past few years. Sales tax has been flattening out for the past 2 fiscal years. We definitely won't hit 313,000. We'll probably be more around 302,000. So the property tax is offsetting the sales tax decrease as well. On expenditures, there are 3 expenditures I want to bring to your attention. Accounting fees, I increased from $16,000 to $27,250. This increase is because your auditors changed the billing system this year. Not only did you pay for the audit at the year end of 2023, you also advanced half of the audit costs for the upcoming audit for fiscal year 24. So you're looking at $27,250. So you paid for your fiscal year end 2023 audit in whole in this fiscal year, and you paid for half of the upcoming year-end audit, which was $11,250. Attorney's fees, the town's used the attorney quite a bit more this year. I increased attorney fees from $15,000 to $35,000. By the end of July or August, I think we're somewhere around a little bit over $33,000. So I'm estimating that we'll be right at $35,000 that year. Payroll taxes, I increased from $20,000 to $27,000. I just don't know if we didn't calculate that correctly at the beginning of the fiscal year or not. And those are the 3 expenditures I want to bring to your attention.
The attorney's fees you adjusted for, does that take into account Clark McCoy pulling on the second? It does not.
No.
Okay.
Was there any change to how much went in or out of tax pool or other savings accounts?
I have to look at it. Let me look real quick. There's very little.
Yeah.
1,087 for the tax pool investment, and then the tax pool prime, we had additional 1,086.
Okay, thank you.
To go back a slot, never mind. Answer my own question.
You're going to come in under this budget. I mean, I estimated that your fund balance this year will be anywhere between 2.3, 2.4 million.
Okay.
Do we have to open this up for public hearing?
No. No record vote, just a motion.
If you're ready, Mr. Mayor, I can make the motion.
Hang on just a second, I'm looking for something,
Okay.
if I can find it. Where you've got attorney fees on this compared to the budget, if you look at that, for the proposed, were
Was it
the
proposed?
numbers, do what now?
You mean
see,
proposed amendments?
we're showing 12,
Yes. You talking about the amending budget, or? Because we have attorney's fees, what was adopted was 15,000 at the beginning of the year,
at the beginning of this year, correct?
beginning of the current fiscal year.
Okay, so this is
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
Okay, I'm
And
sorry.
we're increasing it 20,000
Just because of this year's expenditures.
because of this year's expenditures.
So we should come under budget
Right.
based off of that.
It's
because
gonna be
we were-
close. I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna be close.
We had a lot of changes,
Mhm.
so that's understandable.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, no, you're fine there. I was just kind of looking at it crooked, I guess. So do we need to take a vote on adopting, I guess we do, make a motion to approve the ordinance 274-24-09-16, amending the 23-24 fiscal year budget.
Also motion, as the mayor read.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. So that finishes the regular agenda items. We're on to council discussion. So the council discussion with staff regarding updates on town operations and projects, as well as items the council would like to include in future agendas. So do you want to start with just an update on the code violation report?
I included that in on behalf of Mr. Trevino's request. I don't have any updates on it at this point.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
And the reason for this request is to ensure, for citizens as yourself, what the latency is for us to send, or the town to send out a letter. So, to proceed, trying to streamline or become more efficient at all of our processes.
So as we move forward in the very near future, we will be meeting with Travis Caperton, who's the gentleman that sends out our happy letters. And so once we sit down with him, then we're going to be able to, we're hopefully getting the judge of municipal court and things in order that state law requires. Once we do that, we're sitting down with Travis, our code enforcement guy, and we're going to try to streamline that so that we don't have that delay. And that way you can call up here and make arrangements. Everything works smoother, nicer, a little more orderly. So I apologize for that. But yeah, hopefully that's going to be a transition upcoming pretty quick. So, and then Robert, I put on here a discussion regarding the town parking regulations that you'd ask about. And so if you'd like to open up with that.
Yeah, like I was saying, I think at the last meeting, the idea is to try to align the requirements for all organizations based on the same number of parking places per seat. It sounds like that for schools, it's not aligned with other types of situations where you have fraternities or churches. So just, if we can have a simple wording to make that change quickly, I think that since we're starting to move into an enforcement ability with this, like the mayor was talking about being aligned with the state requirements for enforcement, I think it would be good for us to make sure that we're aligned with those. And I don't want to open this up to a large science fair project. I think it really needs to just be focused on that misalignment between churches and fraternities and schools. it should be a one-line change maybe, or less, or?
Yeah, when you mentioned that and we spoke, I went back and did a little research. So I pulled the towns adjoining ours: Murphy, Parker, Lucas, Wiley. And then I also looked at Arlington, which is what P and Z was looking at as far as when they were trying to figure out some parking ordinances. So when it comes to the church, the one parking spot for every 3 seats, every town except for Arlington has that same requirement. So we're in line with the church part of it. When it gets into the schools, it goes at a high school level to 1 in 4. The difference being high schoolers drive. And so you see that problem is we don't have a high school here. So I don't know how we're going to be able to merge that. That's something we'll have to take a look at as far as that goes. But again, when I started looking through all the different towns that have joined with us, I just want to make sure if we were out or in alignment. The difference in most, at least the Wileys, the Murphys, the Arlingtons, the bigger cities, is their breakdown is so detailed between auditoriums, high schools, gymnasiums, parks, everything you could think of, where in St. Paul, we don't have anything. So we only have about 5 codes. And so I'm with you. I think we should be able to adjust because we only have 5 if we can just, do we need to make a change on that? Arlington had something I'm going to run by and look at P&Z again with, which is they do 1 in 4 or 25% of IBC occupancy load, whichever is greater. And so I think that one may be something we want to take a look at to accomplish what you've been talking about. So
my main thing is to get this as even as we can, so that when we do go to enforcement, we've already been advised we should make sure that things are somewhat even.
Correct.
So I suppose being able to point to other municipalities is okay, but I'm trying to.
Well, my point was we're not way out of whack.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my point there. So any suggestions you have, any details, if you'll forward them to me, we'll run them through.
I could just go ahead and draw up what I was thinking should be the change, and just send it to you and Scott, and we should look at it, and hopefully we can, because it does have to go. This one does have to go through P and Z. There was some belief that all ordinances have to be written by P and Z, and that to me is not true. I think that the origin of ordinances can come from a lot of different ways, but if they're involved with planning and zoning, they certainly have to go through P and Z for them to take a look at it. That's my understanding.
Yes.
Mr.
That's
Albert.
correct. Yeah. So if the P and Z is going to be involved with a particular ordinance, they might as well, they should be reviewing the draft that goes before council with a recommendation.
So I could come up with that, and we, if we're all okay with putting that through to them, they could go ahead and have their look at it, and it comes back to us for final.
Yeah, if you just want to send me a draft real
Yeah.
quick of what you were proposing.
So get them, I guess what I'm saying is let's move forward with getting them to look at it once I
Okay.
send it to you.
Okay.
And then it has to come back to us anyway, so nothing's
Right.
going to be official until it comes back to the council and gets voted on. But that's the general idea, is to try to align it up and down with all the different types of parking.
Okay.
So, yeah, if we can move forward, even if nothing changed, or it does change, we just don't want it to fall off the radar. We just want to keep it moving in
Okay.
each one of these items. So I think that's an important thing.
Okay.
So we can kind of go from there. At this time, do y'all have any discussion points you'd like to cover with Scott? Any updates, any agenda items you'd like to hear in the near future from him?
I think that we need to figure out a way to do some training for the council on Board of Adjustments, and we need to do probably some other training with the P&Z folks as well, but mainly that first item, Board of Adjustment, is an important one.
Okay.
So
I think TML has some training that we should be able to tap into.
Yeah.
When I took it, it was pretty good.
Okay.
So, yeah, I just spoke with Scott this week about the P&Z, that the monthly meetings, whether they had anything on their agenda or not, to have the meeting and use that time for training, and even the reservists, bring them in at the same time so that we can keep the P&Z active, up to date, and training on what they need to be doing when items come before them, and so we can take it from there. So I think me and Scott are on the same page there. We're going to start with that tomorrow, in fact. And so hopefully that's going to work out, just so y'all know.
Yeah, the BOA too, because especially since we are serving on that, and it's two different roles. We're not acting as council persons at that point, we're acting as semi-judicial.
That's right.
Anything else, Lori?
But an audit of all of our
Businesses.
businesses.
I have that on my list, yes, sir. And I know we will get on top of that.
Nothing further.
Anything, Justin?
No, I'm good right now.
Okay. JT, anything else? Okay. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn the town council meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. So the council meeting is adjourned. I'd like to take 5 minutes to go to the bathroom or anything like that.